Thank you. I've never been a university professor. I've always worked in the business world, and I'm one of these people who graduated in 1969 with an engineering degree. I grew up on a small farm without running water, and my dad said, you got to get an engineering degree because you'll get a good job. So I joined IBM. And at that time, computers, nobody knew what they were. So in many ways, I consider myself fortunate because I've seen a tremendous evolution in terms of no one knowing what a computer was until today. It's pervasive through almost everything we do. A couple of comments that I feel very strongly about. CEO leadership. I don't listen to any CEO who makes 100 times what his average employee or average employee makes. Even though they may say to me, we have your best interests at heart as an employee, and we've got you in mind. Do you think they deserve 100 times pay what the average person makes? No. The Occupy movement is really good because it's causing us to finally reflect on some issues in our society. Let's talk about the 99 versus the 1%. Who are the 1%? About a month ago, Maclean's magazine, Andrew Coyne, had an article talking about what income in Canada do you have to make to be in the 1%. According to the 2008 CRA, it's $176,000. In America, it's $455,000. Now, if you're a Manitoban making $176,000, you're going to pay $60,000, $70,000 in tax. You're going to be left with $100,000, $110,000. You're not going to become wealthy. You have a good standard of living, a great standard of living. So we somehow have to put some definition around who are the 1% and who are the 99% and what does it all mean. Now, I'll give you my experience. When Reg asked me to present, I wasn't sure what I was going to say, and then I saw in every IBM office there's a plaque, and it says, World Peace through World Trade. World peace through world trade. Now, when I joined in '69, what that meant was in North America, we manufactured, we put everything together, and we shipped it all over the world. And the company was phenomenal. Yes, there were employees in other parts of the world, but basically they were a small group who looked after installation of the equipment because all the intellectual capital and all the knowledge was in North America. Company grew to roughly 400,000 people. Now what I see is we also have, if you look at IBM, huge multinational, 400,000 people. There's over 100,000 in India. There were a handful when I joined in '69. There's a big bunch in Brazil. There's a whole bunch now starting up in China. But the total headcount has stayed the same. So what's happening? It's called globalization. And in globalization, there's winners and there's losers. Now, I happen to still believe in world peace through world trade because as this globalization occurs, the standard of living is going up for many people in India and China, and they are, by the way, doing much better, and they have an opportunity to perhaps enjoy the same standard of living that we all have enjoyed, and that's very good. But there are also losers back here. When I first started working, I joined an organization that was almost paternalistic. You got lifetime employment, great benefit package, as long as you perform. And there was always yearly performance analysis, and some people got let go or fired because they weren't performing. Now, it's what I call self-sufficiency. You're responsible for your own skills, and you can either be someone who takes advantage of an opportunity, or you can be a survivor, or you can be dead by your downsized right size, and suddenly your job has disappeared. So you may sit there and say, well, that's technology. You know, that affects people who are working in this IT industry. No, you'd be wrong. If you're thinking that, you'd be wrong. Because it's not just the programmers. So if you get a computer science degree, and I've spoken to the computer science faculty, by the way, they don't invite me back anymore because they don't like what I have to say. I said, if you're going to be a software programmer, be careful because those jobs are leaving Canada and they're all going offshore. Why are they going offshore? Because certain countries, India being one of them, they focus on computer science, engineering. They focused on occupations and university courses which industry wants. Until recently, what was our most popular degree in Canada? Psychology. I listened to the radio on the way in, Memorial Park. A woman called in, a young woman, she said, I've got an undergraduate degree in anthropology and the only job I can get is a waitress. What do you do with a degree in anthropology? Did no one ever tell her she should go on and get a PhD or a master's degree? Did no one ever say to her, if you're just going to stop there, it's just not good enough? The globalization phenomena, we know all about call centers, right? We say, well, yeah, that's a call center. We've all dealt with people in India and so on. But let me give another example of a call center. Today, if you have your computer and it doesn't work, we have very talented people in India who take control of that computer, who actually do all the fixes and do all the technical work from India on your PC. I called recently, and while I was waiting for the person in India to power it up, she said, how are the Blue Bombers doing? And I said, what? I said, how did you know that? She said, well, when you call from an 204 area code, the computer says, Blue Bombers, talk to them about football while you're, while you're going through the wait time. And by the way, they take courses on accents. So they love hiring people from the Midwest because we tend to be accent neutral. And they take a month's training on trying to get the accent right. People I've worked with from these organizations are hard-working, talented people. These people are good. I would say it is a generalization. They have good skills, and they work hard. What they miss is creativity and innovation. It's almost like going up the food chain. So as this globalization happens, and people who, but accounting, do you know that more and more in the United States, accounting is being outsourced to India? Well, I read that a lot of financial returns now are done over there. Radiology. If you go every day down to a dark room like a mole and look at x-rays, do you think you have to do it in Winnipeg? If somebody else has the skills somewhere else? The networking costs are so cheap, the technology is so pervasive. So the globalization makes winners and losers. If you have, here's my advice first as a person, if I was you today. Be careful you don't get into a career where it's just you and the computer, or you not interacting with your client base, because that job could be prone to be moved somewhere else. In IBM today, all the back office accounting and so on is Brazil. When you have these ERP systems, enterprise resource programs like SAP, CBOL, and so on, those are being pervasively installed through all the big multinational corporations. What it also allows them to do is to move the work where the skills are and where the knowledge workers are. And we're talking about knowledge workers. It's not like having to move a manufacturing plant or something which requires a big capital investment. This is something you can fairly easily facilitate. Guard dogs, or I call guard dogs, guard labor. I want to talk about that because what business needs to do, and there's only one, I believe only one hope through all of this. You're not going to really stop the globalization phenomena. The most important thing we can do lies in this room. It's education. And I've been very vocal. An example of terrible public policy is a tuition freeze we had in Manitoba. There are ways to ensure people who don't have the resources go to university without a tuition freeze, because we can't starve our universities. Our universities are the investment in the future. I would like to see more money going to universities, both as a taxpayer and as business providing support. Because that's the long-term thing. But I haven't got answers, I've only got questions when we talk about university. It really bothered me when Brandon University went on strike. Why does a university go on strike? Do professors care about their students? It bothers me when I hear from my children, you know, we have terrible professors. They can't teach, yet they last year after year because they have tenure. Why does that go on? Shouldn't we have the best professors? Shouldn't this school be known as one of the best in Canada for a business school? We could do that. Because one thing about living in Winnipeg, the partnership between academia and business is fairly easy to do. It's a size where we could do this. I can't tolerate incompetence. If people can't do their job effectively, and you're teaching to young minds, you shouldn't be in the occupation. High school, did you see in the Free Press? We're last in physics and mathematics in our public school system. What did the head of the Manitoba Teachers Association say? It's not so bad. The big gap between the bottom and the top is not so great because they don't want individualized testing or standardized testing. Why do you have to be protected by guard labor so that you don't have to perform and do the best you can be? So this real objective, I think, is education, but the right education. When do we ask ourselves, when these young people come to university, who tells them about their careers? And by the way, if you get an undergraduate degree in anthropology, it's a good chance you're going to end up being a waitress. Does anyone tell that? Or do we just take their application and take their money and say, let's put them through the factory and let it land where it may? It has to change, because I really believe this is what it's all about for us to be competitive as a society and for us to take advantage of that globalization. Sorry for getting on my soapbox about this, but it's something I feel quite strongly about, and it has to be said. That's why when Reg called me this morning and said, when you come here, I said, this might be an opportunity to get something out on the table that I feel quite strongly about. Thank you.